Do you ever come to the end of something that you love, something that you really care about, and think, that was a good ride, but it's time for it to be over? And you just hope that that last stretch, even if it's not great, is at least something that resembles the thing that you loved? Well, unfortunately, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom is not that. In fact, it's the polar opposite. Ever since I first watched Man of Steel and got really interested into the DCEU, I have been a loyal supporter of the films and the franchise as a whole. Outside of a few bumps like the 2017 version of Justice League, which I no longer see as canon, or the original Suicide Squad in 2016, which I enjoyed but can admit it's a pretty sloppy, messy, poorly made film, I've really liked these movies. While as a whole the franchise hasn't been super cohesive in a long running story, I think that the individual films have been very consistent, some of them being great, some of them being kind of mediocre but still entertaining and likable. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom is the first and only film that not only is bad, but somehow is terrible. It's abysmal. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom is pretty much a summary of the DCEU as a whole, not in terms of its quality, but in terms of the wild, messy ride it's had. The term Frankenstein's monster of a film has been used in referring to 2017's Justice League and 2016's Suicide Squad by many people, but I don't think that either of those films even hold a candle to what is the mess of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. It's clear to see through some of the sloppy CGI, terrible editing, and bad pacing that this movie went through a butcher's shop during production. I think it's safe to say that the creative team and the workers involved just kind of gave up on this film. If James Wan and the writers had a good script here at one point, it clearly got muddled out by a bunch of drama behind the scenes, especially with Amber Heard, and it got cut to pieces, making a very sloppy, boring, just kind of hard to watch movie. There's way too many scenes of characters spouting out tedious exposition and dialogue, trying to fill the audience in on what they need to know in ways that don't even make sense half the time. And if the adventure at hand was actually any good, I would be able to overlook the tedious exposition. But the entire movie is pretty hard to sit through. Every now and then we might get a glimpse of James Wan's artistic style and talent, but it's buried between so much mess. There might be a few scenes where the action actually looks cohesive and well edited, or the visuals might actually be pretty cool looking and the CGI is spot on. But throughout most of the movie, it's just sloppily edited that makes you dizzy when you look at it, and the CGI is just so crowded and ugly and fake looking that it kind of drowns out any good that this movie shows you. The Arthur Curry in this movie feels very different from the character that we saw in either version of Justice League and in his original Aquaman movie. While some of his personality does show through in this movie and some of his good character traits are apparent sometimes, for the most part, everything he does in this movie is just embracing the messy, weird, wild side, which is very apparent in the fact that the song Born to Be Wild just plays like over and over for no reason. The movie tries to create some kind of internal struggle with Arthur Curry, where he doesn't know if he wants to be king anymore. It's not the job that he expected, and he doesn't really like it. But there's not really any arc, and he doesn't really learn anything. He just kind of sticks with the job at the end and just says, I am Aquaman. Like Iron Man did at the end of Iron Man, only that movie was really good and earned that moment. This movie just kind of is like, oh yeah, I'm Aquaman. I'm just the dumb guy that talks to fish again because this movie literally, that's all this movie is. The setup for Black Manta being the main villain of this movie was done very well in the first Aquaman film. It was compelling, and we really understood what Black Manta's motives were. The Black Manta that we see at the beginning of this movie is the same character that we saw at the end of the first Aquaman, but by the end of this movie, he kind of is irrelevant. You see, Black Manta needed to fix his power suit in order to kill Aquaman, and for this he needed some Atlantean tech. So he takes a detour, and on this detour, he finds this black trident. This trident contains the spirit of an evil king who ruled over some lost kingdom. That's a long story. Anyway, this evil spirit tells Black Manta that he will give him the power to kill Aquaman if he would do what he wants. So Black Manta goes on this side quest to create global warming and set this evil spirit free so that he can become more powerful, even though the trident already gave Black Manta a lot of power and he has the Atlantean tech that can kill Aquaman. So why did he decide that he was going to free this evil spirit? That doesn't make any sense, and it literally is the entire plot of the movie is just burning some toxic chemicals, creating global warming, and melting the evil spirit out of the ice, and then going to the evil spirit to break him out because apparently Black Manta needed more power to do his revenge. And guess what? Then there's a fight, and the evil spirit kind of is possessing Black Manta by the end, so he kind of loses his motivation anyway. And then the spirit is broken off of Black Manta, and he's just a dude with no power. And he just gets punched around by Aquaman. It's so lame. Aside from the writing being downright terrible, this movie also doesn't have a single original idea. It rips off so many other movies that it's kind of hilarious. There's a scene where it's basically just underwater Tatooine. It is literally pulled straight out of Return of the Jedi, where we literally have a fat Jabba the Hutt character and some weird fish people singing and playing in this weird band. Mira is in this movie, and that's it. She's kind of just there. She doesn't do anything. She doesn't serve a purpose other than the fact that she was in the first movie and now she's Aquaman's wife. And they had a kid. So, yeah, she's there. And that's it. Poor Amber Heard. I could go on for hours talking about how bad this movie is and about why and how it ended up this bad. But really, what's the point? This movie marks the end of an era. A decade of films that I personally thought were really good until they ended it off with this whimper, this last nail in the coffin that signifies how dead this franchise really is and how bad it got. It all ended with this one film. I'm both sad and relieved that this is the final film in the current DCEU. I'm sad because I really liked this franchise and wanted it to end with a big hurrah, but I'm also relieved that this movie ended up being so terrible because now I know that I won't be missing anything now that the franchise is ending, and DC desperately needs a new direction. It was fun while it lasted, but now it's time to let it go. I am Luke Filmboss, and I give Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom a 30% in quality, a 26% in enjoyment for an overall score of 28%. Thank you all for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell to help me be on the lookout for more videos from Luke Filmboss.